We're rolling.
Rolling? How frightening. Gourmet cooking. Wild oats, macaroni and cheese, white cheddar. I just took my monthly shower bath because I'm eating healthy, obviously, and I'm exercising. And the picture of health, as you can see, isn't that a picture of health?
Wow. Wow.
Good stuff, huh? Those are some gams, aren't they? They're good legs for a 35-year-old, don't you think? See, this is the step most people forget. Is kind of getting all the juices out of the metal at the pan. And, you want the metal to get into the noodles. That's where you get your vitamins or your minerals. Oh, then you leave the pan in there for a couple weeks. So you fat-free milk. Milk, and you just do a little more because I like the cheese. Then for dessert, of course, we have Honey Nut Cheerios.
Wow.
What's the meaning? Do you have meaning? Is there meaning in your life? Have you found meaning in your life? Have you found meaning in life in general? Is there meaning in life? And of course I believe there is, but that's kind of been my search of the last year or two. I'm wondering if you've found that as well. Because it's about time to come to terms with what life is and how we live our lives.
8 years ago when I first volunteered here, my best friend had been diagnosed with prostate cancer at early 40s, and I knew that he and I both knew that what we wanted was to find all the information we could so that he could make the right decisions about what to do for his treatment. So I was looking up books, information, all that. So when I knew that there was this center here and could volunteer, it just seemed so important to me. The center is staffed by trained volunteers. I do the training of the volunteers, and the volunteer staff helps research any and all kinds of health information. I think one of the good points about the Gorilla Center is that people maybe have just had a very serious diagnosis, a very overwhelming diagnosis. So they're overwhelmed by that. They want information. They're overwhelmed also by the amount of information available. So all of that, you're almost like in an, altered state.
I like bass players. And this week we're going to profile bass players and the bass instrument itself, the history of bass, and everything you ever want to know about bass with my special guest today, Chris Engelman, who's associated with E-Town, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you, thank you.
You know, the bass is the only instrument that I know of with its own knob on the receiver, and in your car you have a knob to control that. You don't
That's
have that
true.
with other instruments.
That's true, because the other one's a treble, and there's no instrument called treble, is there?
Exactly.
Actually, you're talking about rock and roll, and I do play rock and roll, and I have played that for many years, but I come from kind of a funny split place, because I started as a jazz player, really. My mom and dad listened to jazz records, and that's how I first listened to music, was playing bass to jazz records. But, like maybe many other people in the Beatles era, I also listened to rock and roll, and I wanted to be a rock and roll musician because even at age, I think 9 years old is when I first started playing bass, I thought that that was the cool way that the girls would like me, is if I played in a rock band. The first thing I ever did was in 6th grade, was at it was the talent show. It was the 6th grade talent show. And there were a couple guitar players who were kind of the cool guys in the school, and I was kind of a nerd. So I wanted to be cool, and they asked me to play in their rock band, and they were going to play the theme from Twilight Zone. Anyway, simple song. I didn't have an electric bass, so the bass player, one of the guitar players, his brother played bass. He happened to have a left-handed bass. Well, I knew that Paul McCartney played bass left-handed, so I thought it would be cool if I said, oh, well, I play bass left-handed too. Of course, I didn't play bass left-handed, but I thought that was the way you played electric bass. I thought that was the cool way, is to play it left-handed. 6th grade, you know. It's really the bridging instrument, so you're playing both rhythm, and you're also kind of the foundation for the harmonic structure of a song. So you're playing the root note of the chords, kind of. So it's really the foundation, both, all three things, harmonically, melodically, and rhythmically. We back up guest musicians that come through, so it's being able to play lots of different styles. Like James Taylor, the first time, which is probably my highlight of the shows, was playing with him, because he's so good and comfortable and confident with what he does that, you know, he can play with some musicians he doesn't know. It's so easy to say Paul McCartney or the Beatles, you know, but in fact, he was a really good bass player, and I think most bass players that play now, that play anything resembling rock and roll, have been influenced by Paul McCartney's playing, either directly or indirectly. In a biography of his that came out fairly recently, they were talking about in the Beatles when they were trying to find, they needed a bass player. And I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something to the effect that, well, you know, the bass player stands in back, so you get kind of the ugly, fat guy to stand in the back playing the bass, because it's the guys up front singing and playing guitars up front. Yeah. And so when they asked, you know, well, we need a bass player, he didn't really want to play bass, because he didn't want to be the ugly, fat guy in the background playing bass. There are those bass players like Entwistle and Chris Squire and actually Paul McCartney too, that brought bass out a little bit more than it used to be, like in the 50s and the early 60s. You almost never really even heard the bass so much. I think bass players are the not noticed thing so much, but if you didn't have the bass happening, you would really miss it. I mean, you couldn't
get the butts out on the dance floor.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
And I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, I wish we had 30 more minutes, because I'm a big talker.
Yeah, we've only got 17 seconds, so
okay,
unfortunately,
I'm done.
but yeah, I don't know how it goes there.
I've said it all.
If you knew that this was going to be your last communication you could have with Bill, what would you want to say to him?
It's a good question, and it's a hard question, but that's a good one. I would just feel like it was a great meeting to have known you and kind of commiserated together on our little journey through this life this material life that we are journeying on, and that all is well and all will be well. Thank you.
We've lost Chris. Okay, I've zoomed in on you. Want to say any final words to old Robin?
Merry birthday, happy Christmas, Merry New Year, happy Valentine's Day, good Easter, and all of that. Hope you're well. Hope to see you soon. Ta-ta, farewell, abiento, sayonara, tout à l'heure. Goodbye.